Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Global Adventure Show with travel writer Debbie Stone. So everyone, today we are going to Abruzzo, out on Italy's Adriatic coast. We're going to talk about food, and of course, travel writer Debbie Stone is back here, and she's going to talk about Trabocco. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing anything correctly, but it is sure fun to try. So, travel writer Debbie Stone, how are you?
I'm fine, and yes, the pronunciation is correct. Trabocco is the way you pronounce it, and Abruzzo is the way you pronounce that. And it's a central region in Italy, one that I had not been to, but friends of ours were renting an Airbnb in this area near the town of the largest city in the area, near Pescara, on the beach actually. And we decided to go visit them after we had been in Sicily. And so we came up there and they introduced us to what a Trabocco was, and we got to eat at one. But this area of Italy is really, it's beautiful. There's a lot of mountains. It's kind of rugged. It's got these really charming villages, vineyards, and there's a part of it that has a beautiful stretch of the Adriatic Sea with a lot of wonderful beaches. And because of this scenery, there's so much diversity. They call it two souls in one heart. It's kind of like. So I love that. I thought that was really beautiful. So this coastline, there's a 37-mile stretch, and it's called the I think it's Trabocchi coast is what I think it's pronounced. If I'm massacring the words, I apologize in advance.
You can blame me. I butcher everything, so that's fine.
So a Trabocco, though, is this like wooden construction. Looks like a pile dwellings, and it's like looks like it's perched on stilts over the sea. And they were fishing machines, and they had these like wooden arms that kind of support the nets, and they're anchored to land. You get onto them on this wooden boardwalk that has poles and planks. So from afar, when we were driving along and we saw them, and my friends pointed them out, they looked like these giant crabs or these like spiders on steroids, and creatures from like some sci-fi movie. And so we were like, oh, really? Those look quite interesting. But they're very historic and they're very culturally significant because they have been a part of this part of the region for hundreds and hundreds of years, and were built out of necessity because the men needed to fish, but they really didn't want to have to go out to the sea all the time to subject themselves to all the harsh conditions on the sea. So, they created these, and they were strong enough so they were able to withstand all the winds and the gale force winds that often came there. So they would stand on top of them, these Trabocco. There would be somebody who would identify which fish were coming, and they would look at the currents of the sea, where to place the nets, where they raising these arms that are using these pulleys and ropes. And then, it was a system that actually worked well for centuries, though, really centuries.
Wow. And so but it did change, right? Because they were just kind of harvesting, and so there was a decline in the fish at some point, right? With all of this.
Yeah. And it kind of in the 1970s and 80s, the fish populations declined. So the families really couldn't afford to keep up, the Trabocco, and they were, owned and created by families. And so many were abandoned. But then in the early 2000s, we were told that they got funding for these Trabocco rebuilding projects. So some of the families decided to convert their Trabocco into a restaurant, hoping that culinary tourism would be economically viable for them. And today there are about 30 of these that are now successful restaurants, and locals and tourists really love them because, first of all, the scenery is just beautiful, breathtaking. But it's such a unique environment and a unique dining experience.
So they're not. So now they're not actually using it to harvest fish from there right now.
No.
So they're taking these old structures, creating. So you're still dining in history, quite frankly.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. You're dining in history, and so we went to the Trabocco Punta Cavalluccio. And it was built by a man and his family back in the 1887. It was passed down to a son, and then he passed it down to his son, who is the current owner. So we went for lunch because although they offer dinner, we wanted to be able to see the surroundings in daylight
Oh,
and
yeah.
go over the walkway. And the sea is beautiful. We had a gorgeous day. The structure has a roof, but it's open on the sides, so you feel like you're dining al fresco. You're kind of being rocked by the water and the breeze as you're sitting at the table. It's just one of these like beatific ambiances. It's just amazing. The menu, it's a fixed price menu. There are dishes, and they come, and they're all based on these recipes of typical Abruzzo seafood cuisine, and it shows off the flavors of the area. And you can order a bottle of wine, and there's all sorts of Italian wine is extensive. Their usual lists are like pages and pages, and you dine on these incredible mouth-watering dishes, and one after another comes. So it's a process, but it's such fun. You're like, oh, what's going to come next? And everything looks
Oh, wow. So
delicious.
they
It's
kind of
tasteful.
know, they just bring out the
Yeah,
menu's a little different. And you're
you
like,
just
I
get
know in your article, and everyone, if you look in the episode notes, there's a link for it, where you can go to the article, see the photos and everything as well. Just go to bigblendmedia.com. You'll see Debbie in our expert department, but it's like you were talking about the wine. You were saying over 60 labels. That's a lot for
yes. It's
wine.
insane. The wait people will help you. The wait staff is great about, it's like, do you want a white? Do you want a red? Do you want this kind of thing. And they're good about, guiding you in the right direction.
But this had to be heaven for you. I know you love your seafood. This had
Uh,
to be, and then have a setting with, on the coast. I mean,
uh,
come on. Did you know about these when you've
no,
done
my
so
friend
much
had,
in Italy? I've never
I
heard of
know, but
these.
I'd never heard of these either. And my friend had mentioned before we were going to see them, they said, oh, we're going to make a reservation at this Trabocco. She told me about it, and I couldn't imagine what it looked like, but I did, Google it to kind of get an idea. And I said, oh gosh, yes, that looks really fun. And she and her husband had been to one already and really loved the experience, and I trusted her because she's definitely a foodie. But I knowing that I'm a pescatarian, she knew that this would probably be right up my alley. But you get octopus salad, you get fried anchovies, you get squid, mussels, stuffed mussels, clams, fish, and then you get this typical Abruzzo pasta that is delicious. And the dessert is you get fresh fruit and some local sweets, and of course this delicious lemon granita like beverage. And I mean, it goes on and on and on, and it's just one of those things. It's like, yes, it really is a total experience. Prepare to be there for a while, but I didn't want to leave. It was like, why would I want to leave?
Yeah. I mean, because it's kind of like even the setting. You're like on a pier almost, like a jetty, your own
Yes.
jetty with your
Yeah,
rails.
you're
There's an
walking on this.
inside.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you walk across the boardwalk. It's a little rickety, but it's you get you there, and then you walk in the entrance, and they take you to your table, and it truly was a remarkable experience. I'm not sure I can ever equate it with something else because it is so special, because it is a historical and culturally rich experience, and once you understand what they were used for and why they were built out of necessity, it's fascinating.
Well, I know you've had time in Rome learning how to make pasta, and that's a whole other experience, everyone. You can also find out more about that on the website, but you learned how to make fettuccine and things like that. So now you had uh, a pasta that is made from that region, and I'm not going to pronounce it, but you can. And what
I
was
think
it
I could
like?
be. It's Sagnette, I think, Sagnette. But this is looks like a little short fettuccine or short tagliatelle. It's like a little rustic short pasta, but it was incredible, and there was some sort of like sauce in it that was it was mild but yet so rich and wonderful. And it really, we kept, all of us were like, oh my god, we want more pasta. And they will come around and they will ask if you want more of anything.
Oh
So
my
that's the
gosh.
nice part.
Oh my
But you have
gosh.
to
What
pace
about
you have to
dessert?
pace yourself, but you have to
I
pace
know,
yourself.
but you still had dessert, and you're like having what, cherries and,
Yes, and
oh,
sweets
oh,
and local, pastry. I mean, it's like, so you really have to, pace yourself, because I wanted to be able to try everything. So, I knew I needed to just kind of, take your time and just, enjoy, but not to be overeating anything.
this is like when you go to the ultimate, English tea experience and they bring out all the different
Oh, yes.
treats.
Oh gosh.
sandwiches and the tea, and then you can have champagne, and then
Yes,
sometimes you can
yes.
have like a little whiskey in your tea and whatever.
Ooh.
Yeah, yeah. But like this is like the seafood version. Like it's like this never ending.
Yes.
It's not a smorgasbord, but it's like
No.
or a buffet. This is just different. This is
Yes.
a very unique experience, and you've traveled so many places. This had to be one of those, like, this
Yep.
is truly unique and cool experiences for
Absolutely.
you, you
Absolutely.
know?
Kind of really, one of a kind and incredibly memorable. And I can
Hmm.
still taste and picture everything. And, just it brings back such wonderful memories.
Oh, that is awesome. Awesome. So where are you going next? I mean, you've been all over. You've been everywhere, man. Where's next for you?
Well, I'm trying to think. I was in Spain, so I will be talking about Spain.
Next
Places
month,
in
everyone.
Spain.
Spain is
Yes.
next. Yes.
Yeah, even though I did speak up, talk a little bit about Madrid, but yeah, I will talk a little bit more about my trip to Spain, and I'm actually going up to Colorado soon, so I will be visiting to Pagosa Springs,
I love it.
the newly renovated, remodeled Springs Resort and Spa, which now is supposedly has more, if you can imagine, more hot pools along the river and a new restaurant and a new expanded spa, etc. So I am looking forward to that.
Wow. Well, you're going to have fun. And Pagosa Springs is gorgeous. It
Yes, it is.
really, yeah, we've had, yeah, that's a whole other conversation we'll have in the future. Yeah, I got myself in almost a ticket out there. But anyway, that's a whole other story. Years ago, yeah, there's a wonderful tavern there.
Yes,
And
I think I know what you're talking about. I do know
yeah,
that tavern.
and it's got to do with a goat. And
Right.
do you know what I'm talking
Yes.
about? The goat tavern. There's a goat
Yes.
tavern, and the guy who built this tavern
Oh
took his
gosh.
goat to a baseball game, and they were like, you can't bring your goat in. And he brought his goat there, and there's a whole legend to this. But anyway, everyone stay tuned for when Debbie goes to Pagosa Springs, because she's going to have to go research the goat,
Yeah, see if he's
So we got to get that legend back. Yeah. It's
yeah,
cool.
definitely.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much, Fire Monkey. You take care, everyone. Debbie is here every fourth Tuesday, but like today's shows, we had 3 running, and you never know what's going to happen. And she's on other Big Blend radio shows as well. So you can keep up with her on bigblendradio.com and on bigblendmedia.com, nationalparktraveling.com. Go check out our archives on blendradioandtv.com, and you're everywhere. So have fun, Debbie. Travel safe.
Well, thanks so much. And you too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Big Blend Radio's Global Adventures Show with travel writer Debbie Stone. Debbie is here every fourth Tuesday. You can keep up with us at bigblendradio.com.